You got 9 live gun towers. Like when I was there, I seen a guy. They were in a fist fight, no weapons, and the gun tower. They sounded the alarm. They sound alarm. Everybody get on the ground, and they'll fire like one warning shot in the air. And they fired that warning shot, and they didn't stop fighting it, and they shot the guy.
What's good in the hood, baby?
What's up, man? How you doing?
Oh, I'm doing real good. Interesting day. Interesting last couple days. I've been kicking it with an ex-con, everybody. He's actually a really great guy. Do you like to be called John or Jay? I've been calling you Jay.
Government name's John Sanders.
Government name is John Sanders, and he's got a really interesting story about prison, why he went to prison. It's just a whole thing. So anyways, thanks for coming, and thanks for doing this. I wanted to kind of kick things off a little bit with a background of childhood. Like, was your upbringing, I mean, I'm basing this off what I know about you now. Like, was your upbringing, how was it? Was it good? Was it bad?
It just depends how you look at it. I grew up in a small area, probably about 25,000 people. Had the best dad in the world, probably not the best parent, pretty open to, I was probably exposed to things that I shouldn't have been, probably at an early age. Of course, he graduated high school in 1976. So, weed was really starting to come to us, like Epitone and cocaine. So my dad went from being like a star football player. He had like people would come watch him, to started smoking weed, getting into that whole social network. And eventually that led to, after he had my sister and me, I have an older sister, and me, he got arrested for trafficking marijuana. Like we lived in a rural area, so they would grow and manufacture, marijuana in large quantities. So in 1984, so I was 2 years old, he was arrested on a trafficking conspiracy, went to prison, wasn't a real long time, approximately 2 years, come out, and did really, really good, like had like a 10-year gap, no trouble. I don't really know the particulars why he got back to doing what he did, but the same thing, approximately 10 years later, 94, caught another big weed distribution charge, ended up in prison for like 36 months. So, but he was like the best father ever. Like, I can do anything, I can weld, I can build things. He taught me everything that I know today to be able to build a successful business. But just as far as the parenting skills of exposure to certain things, kind of could have been in a better position.
What kind of influence do you think that had on you and, in your life when you started getting into, selling drugs? Like, you seem to really look up to him. You seem to still really love your father, right?
You're correct.
Which is awesome. But like you said, it was almost like you were too much like your father in a lot of ways, right?
I mean, once you see it, like somebody trafficking, on a decent scale of drugs, the money's easy. The mom's got a new car, you got whatever shoes you want, clothes. So then when you go from that to him getting incarcerated, you see like the struggle and the poverty, because you got a single mother raising 2 children at that point without the same financing. So that becomes hard. You get to see what it's like, both sides, to have money and not. So of course I liked having money. It's a lot easier. You can do whatever you want. You don't have to worry about anything. I've seen the strain it put on my mother, his absence. And, so once I got a little older and started getting into selling drugs and stuff, it made it real easy because I had all the connections. Like, my dad's solid, reputation solid. But at that point, once I had gotten involved in it, he was against it. And, it's hard. You can tell somebody something, but what you do is usually what they follow.
Of course.
And, and I can remember having a conversation with him. I had went from selling weed, and then the whole methamphetamine epidemic started hitting our area around.
How old were you when you started selling weed?
Probably about 15,
And that's like the first drugs you were selling?
Yeah, for sure.
All right, so like what was the thing that enticed you to sell drugs? Like, you start from there. Tell me, like, what was the first time you ever, sold a bag of some shitty weed to somebody or something?
I would have been 14, because it was when my dad was doing his second term. And so my mom had caught me with some weed, and she said, So she go, we go to visit my dad, and she tells on me, and
Yeah, yeah.
he's involved in this stuff, yada yada yada. You need to talk to your son, blah blah blah. And so he's telling, eventually he sees I'm not gonna stop doing it. So he kind of tells my mother, he's like, look, I'd rather him deal with my people as opposed to dealing with somebody else and getting hurt or.
Yeah, I
And
understand.
plus his connections were a little better anyway, so it worked out great for me.
Right. That's crazy. So that's how that all kicked off.
So that's how it started. So my dad, once he got out on that prison term, he's never done nothing since. As far as traffic, weed or anything, he still smokes. It's real controversial because I'm like, why are you doing that? Like it's ruined your life. It tore our family apart. But we agreed to disagree on that issue.
Right. We also agree to disagree on the weed issue.
Yeah, you like to smoke weed and I don't, but it's great.
That's all right.
It's a balancing friendship.
Yeah, no, 100%, 100%. I respect your opinion.
Yeah.
You're wrong, but I respect it.
It's all right, Roger. But so we'll kind of revert back to the story. So I was selling the weed, and we were still making money on weed. And I'm an opportunist. Like when I see something, there's a need for something, I want to be able to be the vendor for it. And it's the same way when I was selling drugs. So I seen there was a big need for methamphetamine. It was a small area, and there was like no real big distributor. So at first I started.
How did that come to your attention?
How did I? Well, I mean the social network I'm in. And I'm seeing the money in it, and like if you have to sell 100 pounds of weed, it's a pretty good size to commute, to take somewhere. I didn't really do it by the kilo; I did it by the pounds. But the pounds, a pound of methamphetamine is, this big.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, it's not that
No,
big.
I know.
Yeah, it's worth a lot of money, but it's not that big.
So just a little pound, just like that.
Size really matters.
What's that worth? What was that worth at the time?
At the time, I didn't like traffic it out to multiple people.
Mm-hmm.
I dealt with 2 people. One person initially, it ended up becoming 2. That's where I messed up, but should have stuck with the one person.
Were you cooking it, or you were just buying it?
Yeah, that's what it led into. First, you're trying to steal my show here.
Yeah, a little bit. Sorry.
Okay. So I was buying it at first, and then it was brought to my attention like how to manufacture it. So like locally, people were making like small quantities, and I'm like, I'm just not getting involved in that shit for a small quantity. So I started making some contacts and figuring out where I could get like mass quantities of the chemicals. So at the time, you could either use lithium ion, government controlled sodium, pseudoephedrine hydrochloride. That was the 3 main things you needed. And we were using like a reduction method. You use a catalyst and an electrode, reduce the oxygen molecule out of pseudoephedrine, and then you get methamphetamine.
Okay.
So I made the connections. We're getting plenty of the chemicals in. We would take all the way from like Canadian border up through northern Wisconsin. It's real country. So we'd set up a lab there, manufacture several pounds. We'd vacuum seal it, put it inside the doors, and then we would traffic it back towards Kentucky.
Right. And Kentucky is like, I feel like those rural areas really hit it off with the meth.
Oh man.
Yeah, they crush it, huh?
It was amazing.
What are your thoughts on but you're selling in quantity. You're not like, no one's coming over for you for a little bit of meth.
No, I think where I got the most excitement out of it, because I was in the social network, but nobody really knew what I was doing. I would leave once a month, pick up the chemicals, manufacture the drug, bring it back.
How are you bringing them back?
In vehicles, vacuum sealed, inside door panels, different spots to hide.
Right.
Yes. But I would bring it back, and then I dealt with one person in particular at first, become 2. And, we would go out to these social gatherings. And I never seen the need to, like, cut it,
Right.
I wanted, like, a pure drug. So we would be out at these parties and everything, and people would be like, oh, I don't know, somebody's brought this into town, and it's, like, so pure. Have you seen it? And I would get a chuckle out of it because, we're the ones bringing it in, but nobody really knew. So that was kind of probably where I got like the biggest excitement out of it, is nobody knew what was going on.
I'm getting everybody high.
Yeah, I'm getting the city's high.
Yeah. That's crazy. Do you look back at that now and like, do you feel bad about that at all?
Oh, absolutely. So when I was 20 years old, when people start getting into the harder drugs and everything, it's like just it's a fun. We're traveling, going wherever we want, doing whatever we're doing. But like none of us have kids. We don't really see like the degenerative effects that a drug addict, leads into. So like it was like it's just all fun, money, we're having a great time. But then post incarceration, once I got locked up, I really learned like how bad this is destructing people's lives, not only from inside prison, but my mother had become addicted to methamphetamine. So now I have two younger siblings. They're 18 years younger than me. They are getting neglected, and then my dad ends up having to raise two children by himself. And this is just a big eye opener. So I seen it in prison. Like they would want drugs inside prison. Of course, there's all kind of drugs inside prison. And you're next to somebody on the phone in prison. There's 3, 4, 5 phones. You know some of these people, and you hear them on the phone talking to their family, and they're like, "Oh, Mom, I need money for this legal work," and you're looking at him like, "You ain't even got no appeal going."
Mm-hmm.
I know that's a lie, And they just get addicted to drugs and just do real snaky things, and like it's made me start thinking like, man, I was really facilitating all this shit.
Right.
Just destroying lives. And then my mother lost custody of my two youngest siblings. That was like a home run to me there. I was like, whoa.
Wow.
How many people did I do that to?
Right. Yeah, that's got to feel some type of way. So you're trafficking meth, you're making meth, you're distributing it, you're crossing state lines with it. What happened? You got caught.
It was all fun until the cops showed up. I'm not going to mention no names, but a close friend of mine that we were a 50-50 partnership on this. We did everything together. And he was 2 years older than me. And we're real good friends. Grew up, rode motorcycles together. We grew up on the lake in Kentucky. So that's all we did is stay outside. So we get up there. We're doing all this together. We actually I guess I'll go through the process of how we got caught because nobody really told on me that really got them onto us. So at this warehouse, this is near the border of Canada, that is the guy I hooked up with. So he was inside. We would go to him, and he would make arrangements. We weren't stealing it out of there because I didn't want to raise no red flags when they do inventory.
Right.
And it was a distribution spot. So we'd pay for it, but there's loss prevention agent inside that distribution center, and they started noticing just us making communication with him, and we don't work there. So I think it was October 14th of 2002, the guy had seen it and he knew something was wrong because he's like, well, they shouldn't be here picking up this. So he calls the DEA immediately. So I got lucky. I got out of there. They missed me, but I didn't know they were onto it.
Yeah, of course.
So November comes, which it was November 22nd of 2002. Like the worst numbers in my life are 11 and 22 because I got arrested in November 22nd. I got 22 years. I was sentenced when I was 22 years old, and I was supposed to get out in 2022.
Oh, wow.
So
wow.
And that's the controlling numbers in numerology. So for whatever reason, I'm not sure why all that happened.
So you get busted, but so where were you when when this kind of went down where you're getting arrested?
Okay, the actual arrest spot was Dane County, Wisconsin, which is the capital of Wisconsin, Madison. So I'm coming out, and the truck's already loaded. Everything's in the truck, and the guy that's with me, he's inside the truck. He didn't go inside. So as I'm walking out, I see this guy, and he's like in a Cutlass, not the older Cutlass, like the newer model one. We make eye contact as I'm walking by him, and when he looks at me, it was like a bad energy, and I'm like, man, that's got to be a Fed.
Yeah, right? Fucking knew it. Yeah.
So I get in the vehicle, and
what do you have on you?
Oh, a truckload of pseudoephedrine hydrochloride and government-controlled sodium, like literally a truckload. So I'm like, fuck, I know I'm in trouble, and I have I think I have $42,000 cash in the truck.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah, perfect. I mean, it just makes a good recipe for a conviction. And so long story short, I see him. So I get in the truck, and I don't immediately pull off. I tell Alex, I said, that's got to be like a DEA or a Fed or something. It's something I can just tell. So he's telling me, no, you're just tripping. Come on, how's it going to be that? I'm like, I'm telling you it is. So I put the truck in gear. I'll remember this for the rest of my life, just how it happened. I put the truck in gear, and I pull off, and he don't follow me. And I'm like, maybe I am getting paranoid or something.
Yeah.
And I had just nervous steel when I was doing this because I've done it my whole life, something illegal. And I'm like, man, maybe it's time for me to get out of this. I'm getting shaky or something. So he just stays in the parking lot, and I drive a quarter mile. I'm watching him. And I thought, maybe it's not the cops. And as soon as I pull out on the Washington Exchange, I see another unmarked, but there's a separating median, so he can't get behind. He can't get turned around.
Mm-hmm.
And when I seen him, I knew it. Like I know here they're coming, you know.
Hey, you're fucked.
And so the adrenaline got to rushing in me, and he's telling me I'm overreacting, but I know what it is. You know? I know they're about to pull me over or try to. So I took off. I'm out of there. So, but I don't know if you're familiar with UW-Madison, like kind of how the logistics of it are. It's real downtown, small one-way roads. And long story short, I get away from that officer. He couldn't get on the exchange fast as me. I get on it, get away, and I pull in a residential neighborhood. So I'm like, let's just get the fuck out. I got the money. We'll go hit the airport, get out of there. I'll report it stolen. But you know, in your mind, as a criminal, you're trying to figure this out real fast. But I'm already on camera at the distribution.
Yeah, they've done had you done. Yeah,
they've done got me. Like,
yeah,
I'm stuck.
Doesn't even matter.
So I'm thinking this a little bit in my head, like I can't stop. I at least got to get this out of the truck, you know. So I'm driving around and I pull out, and they've already got an APB on me, you know, and I'm young, and I got a Bahama metallic paint job on this truck, and like it flip-flops, and it's got 20-inch rims. Like 20-inch rims then were something, you know, but not now. But I never expected this to happen, and so I pull out there, and it's a marked car. So I'm like, oh fuck.
Yeah, you definitely.
He's like 6 cars behind me, so I'm watching in the mirror, like, what's he doing? You know, I'm trying to avoid him being able to get behind me. So he ends up making his way to me and gets behind me, pulls me over. So I pull in the alley, and I tell my co-defendant, I was like, man, I'm about to back into this motherfucker, and I'm going to smash his car, and I'm going to take off.
Uh-huh.
And he's like, don't do it. You're overreacting. You don't even know if they know what's in the vehicle or anything yet.
Right.
I'm like, they fucking know, dude.
Yeah,
dude,
you know.
I mean, what are you thinking? We're having this serious conversation like this. And I'm like, they know. They've got to know. There was that was a fucking cop at the distribution center. That was a cop tried to get behind us, and now we're pulled over. So I'm sitting there, and he's like, oh, that'll just get us in way more trouble. So under the Free Sale and Trade Act, when I was doing this, you could buy, sell, trade. You could do whatever. It wasn't governed by the FDA or DEA at this point. The only way they had to prove culpable knowledge that you were doing this. So we knew all this before getting involved in this.
Right.
And we had rehearsed the stories, like if anything happened, because I would never carry like multiple too many of the same thing. Like you need like 3 precursors for a conviction, so I wouldn't carry them all together. And so we get out. They do. No, let me back up a little bit. So when the officer gets there, the DA that I first seen, he's in this green Cutlass. He pulls up. You know, he's a detective with a leather jacket and his badge, and he goes, they've already taken my ID when I got pulled over.
Yeah.
So he didn't even have a clue who I was. But he's like, oh, it's so great to meet you finally, Mr. Sanders.
Oh, wow, you're like,
and I'm like, so I don't know what's happened at that point. I thought, oh, somebody's done told, you know, like,
yeah.
he's so great to meet you finally. So he asked me, so what's going on here? Can I search the vehicle? And I was like, no, you can't. If you don't have probable cause, I'm not giving you any issue to search the vehicle. So we sat there for like 3 hours in the back of a police car, but they're trying to get a warrant to search the vehicle.
Of course, yeah.
So they end up getting.
What'd they pull you over for? They cite why they pulled you over?
Well, that was a big thing, and that goes into my appeals process. But in the state of Wisconsin, if they pull you over, they can search your vehicle, what they call incident to a criminal arrest. But they pulled me over, they said, for not wearing a seat buckle, which is a civil forfeiture. I didn't know all this till I was fighting it from prison, trying to beat my case. We get in there, we're going through the proceedings. They let my co-defendant bond out. So what does he do? He goes right to where we have a lab set up in DeKalb, Illinois. So once he gets there, they're tracking on him the whole time. So he loads this stuff up in his vehicle and heads back towards Kentucky. They pull him over, the feds do. He gets arrested, and they're like, now you're going to cooperate with us, or we're going to give you 80 years.
Wow.
All right. So I don't know all this at first. He's bonded out, and we've been talking, and then he gets arrested for a short period of time, and then they let him back out. So I don't really know, but then he quit taking my phone call, and I knew something was wrong then. And at that point, it's just a state case. And
did you have suspicions?
Not at first, because I knew I had like rock solid. They can't do nothing to us unless somebody tells. So I'm thinking in my mind, he don't want to subject himself to be giving them evidence as to what we were doing. because it's going to, implement or.
But you at that point had no idea that he was facing.
No, I didn't know he had got caught with this
Right.
other shit,
Right.
So my attorney comes to me, and he's a state attorney, and this is like, this is January or February, and he's like, they want to give you 5 years in the state, truth in sentencing, and in Wisconsin, they had truth in sentencing, meaning that if you took 5 years, you do 5 years to the day, no parole, nothing.
Nothing.
So I'm like, hell no, I'm not taking. I'm 20 years old. Like, I just got off the streets having a lot of fun. I'm not signing up for 5 years. So he's like, we'll go to trial. I think you can win. He don't know my co-defendant is cooperating at this point. So about, I don't know, 2 weeks go by, and he comes back to visit me. He said, we got a whole nother issue. And I'm like, what are you talking about? 2 weeks ago, you told me you think you can beat this.
Yeah.
Now I know it's going to be a battle to try to win a case. So I have no clue about the federal proceedings whatsoever. I'm totally ignorant to it. So my attorney that I had then, he didn't practice federal law, so I had to waste more money, hire a federal attorney. So I go through one, and all he wants to do is me to cooperate.
Right.
And I'm like, I'm not cooperating, That's just not me. I'm not a snitch. I got myself into this, and now you got to figure out how to get me out.
Right.
That's your job. And so I end up firing him. And in the federal system, it's not as easy as just firing your attorney because, the court wants like a timely proceeding on everything. And you got to have like grounds to fire your attorney. So we're in front of this judge in Madison, Wisconsin. And I'm like, I can't deal with him. All he wants me to do is cooperate with the government. I haven't done nothing. I'm definitely claiming innocent at that point.
Yeah, of course. You pled not guilty off the rip anyways, just like everybody else does.
I tell him, like, I can't deal with him. All he's wanted me to do is cooperate with the DEA, and I don't know anything. Like, so she ends up, they recuse him from my case, and I get another attorney. So this guy comes in, and I shout out to him for real. John Sperlinski was his name. And he was always honest. He lost the trial, but he didn't have a winning case. But he did everything he could. He did everything he said he would. And he comes in there, and he tells me, he says, you're looking at 20. And everything in the feds is like months. They don't tell you years. It's 262 months or this. So I said, what, 20 months? Like, that ain't shit, I've already been in here for like 8 or 9. No big deal. And he's like, no, you're looking at like 20 years. That's the bottom end.
Damn.
And I'm like, are you kidding me? And he's like, no. He says, you got 2 options.
And what were the exact charges at that point?
At that time, is possession of precursors with intent to manufacture methamphetamine, conspiracy to manufacture.
Okay. And do they put a weight on that or a quantity on that?
Yeah, I had the federal guideline scale maxed out. It goes from level 1 to 38. So the quantity I had put me at a level 38. So that's what subjected me to so much time. And federal sentencing guidelines, unless you cooperate, they're mandatory. The judge doesn't have no leniency as far as if she wants to give you less or more. She has to follow strictly within those guidelines.
Right.
So it's set up kind of like a spreadsheet. And you got 1 through 38. Actually 41. But
yeah, but I love how there's an incentive to, like, say, fuck my rights. Does that make sense? As far as, like, you're going to do... So you're telling me if you don't cooperate, they're not going to say, all right, we'll give you 10 years instead of 20.
Oh, it's worse than that, because if you exercise your right to trial, they automatically punish you for that. You're going to get the maximum sentence.
That's so fucked.
Yeah, it's really bad, and that's like a right for our country. You should be able to face your accused.
Yeah.
And so that proceeded, and I told him, it starts getting into the phases of negotiation. And he's like, there's no possible way to get you under 20 years. That's the best plea bargain we can get is 20. The maximum sentence they're going to be able to give you is 30. And I just looked at him and I was like, there's no way in fuck I'm signing up for 20 years. We gotta pull 12 jurors.
Yeah, no doubt. No, how are you going to just sit there and just say, oh, yeah, all right. Yeah. No, sounds good.
Yeah, I
Deal.
just can't do it because you're doing it then.
Yeah, that's
you're
crazy.
It. And so once we get to that phase, and I just told him, John, I know you got a losing case. This is through a prison visit. He'd come see me. And I said, I know you got a losing case, but I just can't see myself as a man signing a document right here and giving them 20 years of my life.
Yeah.
I just can't do it. So you do what you got to do, and I'll handle all the consequences. And he did. He fought hard. It was an unfair trial. I'm not here to claim I was innocent in any way because I was guilty. But like when we were in our trial, the jury come back 4 hours after their deliberations, 3-day trial. And when they come back into it, they said, we want to hear the testimony of bleep, bleep, bleep against John Sanders, because there was a lot of disparities in his testimony as far as, the intent and what was going on. And
Who requested that? The prosecution?
no, the actual jury requested.
The jury requested.
And
okay.
the judge sent them back into deliberations and said, this has been a 3-day trial. You shouldn't need any transcripts to review. You should be able to recollect it. And I was like, are you fucking kidding me?
Wow, really?
Like that was my last hope going out the window,
Yeah,
like,
because
wow.
there's nothing they could.
To try to, they're trying to pull a hole in the story. And with that, without it where they can really do it, it really hurts me.
So you go to trial and you lose.
Worst moment of my life. Found guilty. The jury actually reads the verdict in a federal trial, and they read, us the jury, we find Mr. Sanders guilty on 4 counts. So find me guilty on these 4 counts, and nothing had really affected me to that point. And and you have to stand up. I thought I was gonna pass out waiting on the verdict because
I believe that.
It's like D-Day.
Yeah.
It's go home or you're fucked.
Right.
And
I'm surprised your sweet Southern accent didn't have a little impression on the judge.
Well, that was the thing. They didn't want me to get on to testify for myself.
Really?
Yeah. This is in the jury because then they can start interrogate me about the whole situation. Where if he just testifies against me, we can try to discredit his story.
Well, that's gotta really suck to have your buddies that were like, oh, I won't snitch on you, snitching on you.
Oh, they'll tell.
Yeah, the saying. I told you this the other day when I was talking to you. I was like, my stepdad used to tell me everybody just once they get in there, they're fucking singing,
Yeah, it's fun. It's really funny, that aspect of it, because on my federal case, I only had one co-defendant because I only took one person with me. He was the only person I did that part of the business with. Once he caught that case, when he went back to Kentucky, they started a whole nother case with organized crime, and it had 2 conspiracy to commit murders in it and like 16 or 18 drug trafficking charges. Well, I got implemented in all that, and so they draw out like this pyramid. And, like, I'm at the top, and I'm like, how the fuck I'm at the top of all these people? I don't even know them.
Yeah.
But they're saying because I was distributing it.
Yeah, you had no idea who was going through at that point.
Yeah. So, long story short, that we were set up for another trial.
L fucking Sanders over here.
No, it wasn't nothing like that. But we're set up for another trial on that case, and I come from the feds. This is kind of funny part of the story, too. So I come from the feds. Everybody knows me in my town. And I know people that are in the county jail just doing county time. So I'm in there, and I'm doing 22 years in the feds. And I'm like, fuck, I'm not trying to do all this time.
Of course.
So I start looking at the cell and how it's designed and everything. And, like, they have prison tables, and they're, like, flat metal tables with 2 braces bolted to the wall. So I'm looking like, how can I get this off? Because they got the drop ceiling. So I think if I get up in there, I can chisel a hole big enough to get out of this jail with it. And so I end up tearing this bar off this table. This is in 2006, 4 years after my federal conviction. So I tear this bar off this table, and I get somebody to bring me in a security star bit so you could take the panel off in the ceiling.
That's hilarious.
And so I get up there, I'm chunking, trying to get out of here, just a little bit at a time. Well, in the process of doing so, a fight ensues in the cell. And I guess, we didn't clean up good enough, and there was a little bit of, like, concrete dust along the wall. So I see him go in the cell, and I'm like, oh, shit. He starts looking around, and I'm like, this ain't good. And they get to looking around. They clear the whole cell out. It's like 11 people in there. I'm like, okay, my plan to escape, it's about to go south here.
Yeah.
And I never go back to that cell because I end up in solitary confinement after that. And
for how long?
Well, they had, you have, like, you go to an adjudication in the county jail there, and they give me 360 days in solitary confinement. Now, at the same time, I'm fighting this case, and I'm doing 22 years in federal, and then I got this other case they're trying to slam me on. So I just tell my attorney down there, I was like, look, I'm not plea bargain to any of this shit. I'm going to trial on everything.
Yeah, might as well.
I mean, I'm already fucked. And
Yeah,
I
you're
had
fucked
that,
anyways.
I had that mentality, like I was just on a downward spiral with the judicial system. It's like lose. So they really don't want to go to trial. We get to that point, and they're trying to say, well, take 20 years and run it consecutive. So now I'm doing 20 in the feds and 20 in the state when I get done.
Get the fuck out of here.
I'm like, fuck no, we're going to trial. You just suit them up,
Yeah.
I started feeling the vibe. They really don't want to go to trial. My attorney's telling me, look, if I can get them to give you 10 years rank concurrent for all these charges, and I'm like, the biggest part of it for me is I wasn't fucking guilty of some of these charges. They got me tied in with these other people.
Right.
Like I really wasn't. And it was an ego thing. Like, I'm not guilty of this.
Right.
I'm actually innocent. So my attorney come up there, and they actually even brought my father in, because I'm like, I'm not pleading guilty to that shit. I don't care if it's 10 years concurrent or not. I didn't do it. And, my father come in there, and he's like, look, if you're not getting a day extra in prison for any of these charges. They're running it concurrent with time served. Like, you need to take this plea bargain, because if you do go to trial and you lose, like, you're looking at 50 years now.
Yeah, you're out of your fucking mind.
Yeah, it's over, game over, So I was like, do you really think that's a good idea? I didn't do this shit. And he's like, sometimes in this situation, it really doesn't matter.
Yeah, that sucks, because they put you in a really, I also feel like once you're in the system, it's meant to keep you in it. It's not really meant to help rehabilitate, right? Like, I mean,
not at all.
Right? Like, I don't see how that I don't see how putting people in a cage is like, all right, now they're going to be better when they come out. Isn't that what the goal is? I don't understand.
It can be like that. I think the most important part for people to understand, in prison, a person is going to make the time, either work for them or work against them. But it's the obstacles that you face once you're released that really determine success nor failure. But no, it's not designed to help you in any way.
Yeah, that's for sure.
For sure.
That's for sure. I've know a couple people that have been to jail, and I've had the pleasure of interviewing some people that have been to prison, and not so many have been as fortunate as you. Why don't you tell me like one of your crazier your prison stories?
I'll kind of walk you through the whole slideshow of it.
Yeah, give me that.
Start to finish,
I like
okay?
it. Go for it.
So I had a lot better personality, and I was more of a comical guy, just carefree. I didn't have a whole lot of stress in my life until all this occurred. But I get to prison. I've lost the trial. I'm young, and you're kind of ignorant when you're young. You're like, okay, I got 22 years, but it's like, okay, let's go see what this is about. So we go from Dane County, that's where I went to trial at, to MCC Chicago, and it's like a skyscraper jail. It's 3 different buildings. They're built like a triangle. And we go there for transfer, and they come pick us up on the first federal bus. This is the first time that a federal bus has come and picked me up. It's real early in the morning, like 3 in the morning. So we go to O'Hara, the airport there. And I don't know my federal number at this time. I'm just federally convicted. I haven't had any documentation with it or anything. So, like, how it kind of, I can paint a picture for you of how it works. So you pull up on these buses, and you have, like, federal prison in Wisconsin. You have one in MCC Chicago. And any surrounding federal prisons will meet at that airport on these buses. They're like, a city bus. And what they do, when you pull up, all the guards will get out, and there'll be U.S. Marshals come, like in black Suburbans. They line up, and they create a perimeter, and they're all armed with AR-15s. And then at that point, they'll start getting all their itineraries of who's on the plane, who's going where, and you'll have like a bus here. They're going to the federal prison in Wisconsin. This one's going over here. This one's going to Southern Illinois. So they'll start calling your name. You'll walk off the plane. You'll get up. And, of course, you're handcuffed and shackled now. You got a belly chain to your cuffs and then shackles on your feet. So you can imagine, getting up out of a plane seat with that shit on, plus walking down a flight of stairs.
Right.
You're not at a flight gate at that point. So you get down there, it's fucking freezing cold. It was in the winter when I went, like, there's snow on the ground, and I was out there for like 2 fucking hours for them figuring out, 200 inmates coming off the plane, where they're going and everything.
Yeah.
And mind you, they've woke you up like at midnight, took you to receiving and discharge to, start all this process. So you get on the bus to where you're going, or I went from a bus to a plane, flew from Chicago to Oklahoma City. That's the transfer center. and it's huge. It's like 10 stories. You never touch the ground. You pull right up to a flight gate. You go in. It's like a long corridor. So the first thing you'll do is you'll go in these staging like rooms, and you'll fill out your name and do you got any medical issues, all this shit. They'll take the cuffs off you at that point. So you're in a room with like 200 inmates you don't know, nothing.
Gee, I
And
was gonna ask, do you know like what any of them are there for? But
no, they don't really like classify you at that point. It's just like they're trying to get you to wherever you're going.
right.
So it's everybody. There's everybody from 6 months to 6 life sentences in these. They're called bullpens.
Is that a point where things maybe get a little bit more real for you as far as like when things get moving to like where you're going to be maybe housed for any sort of extended period of time now?
So the next process there, so you go to Oklahoma City. It's like an all-day affair getting processed in, and then they'll send you to a cell block. So once you get to Oklahoma City, it's usually like 1 to 25 days you could be there. It just whenever that next plane comes in to head it out to your destination. When I was in the federal system, there was 114 prisons. So that being said, there's a lot of destinations, and there's like 4 planes for the feds that fly dedicated every day. So you're waiting on that. So there it's kind of like the county jail. There's nothing much to do. You can make phone calls. They have a TV room, but basically there's not a whole lot to do there. And this was all new to me. I'd come from a county jail. Now I'm in the transfer center. So you're talking to guys. You're eating every day at a table with somebody, and you're asking questions, and they're like, man, this is nothing. Once you get out to the yard, you'll be able to play basketball, work out. There's classes you can take, this, that, and the other. And so I was like, okay, sounds a little better. So my next story is when they picked me up from Oklahoma to go to Memphis, Tennessee. That's going to be my first destination. And I'm like, this is so great. You're getting out. I've already been in the county at that time for 2 years in Wisconsin.
Right.
And so they picked me up pretty quick. I think it was within about a week. So, of course, you wake up at midnight. You go sit there all day, wait on the plane to get there, load it up, fly to Memphis. And once you get to Memphis, you get off. There's all the correctional officers from there. Forest City, there's a few different institutions that fly into Memphis. So you get off. So we get to Memphis, get in the bullpen, and then you go through what they call R&D, and that's receive and discharge. So you come in there, you're in another little bullpen. They're pretty friendly there. It's probably the best prison I've ever been to. It's like a college with a fence around it, kind of.
Really?
Yeah, I mean.
What an interesting way to describe it.
I mean, it really is, except there's no women. It's a all-male college. So I get there, and you get what they call a bedroll. It's like, it's temporary for like your washcloth, towel, a small little toothpaste, this and that, till you can get to the store and buy everything you need. So I'll never really forget that. It's a pretty nice prison how it was set up. When you come out of receiving and discharge, you're right on the softball field. You're in the outfield, and like they're playing softball and everything. I'm like, okay, I can make this work, I guess. Not much of a choice at this point. So I get to the cell, and my first cellie in prison, he was a pagan, a 1%er motorcyclist out of Virginia, and he was in there for. They had a Hellraiser ball in New York, and they totally got into it. A couple people got shot, some people got killed. That's what he was in there for. But he's an awesome guy. I kind of judged the book by the cover at first. Like, oh, fuck, here I go. I'm in here with a biker, first one. And he's real, like, stern, like, my name's Will,
Yeah.
I was like, how you doing? So we hit it off pretty good. We had a few, arguments over a couple-year period, but everything went pretty
I feel like
good.
you're going to have that, though, no matter what.
It's just par for course. If you live with somebody every day, and you're going to go through institutional lockdowns where you're locked down for, 24 hours a day in a cell with them, maybe for 2 weeks, a month at a time.
Wow.
You don't come out. They put a sack for food through your door like you're an animal, and you're stuck in there.
That's so fucked.
One shower every 3 days. Like, yeah, it's bad.
You see like a lot of ass whoopings and stuff like that?
That's usually what will create the institutional lockdowns, like stabbings, especially if it's like interracial. And what can happen there, of course, like say you're my buddy and a different race attacks you. Of course, maybe all of us will get together and just go fuck their whole clique up.
Mm-hmm.
And then their clique, it's just going to be back and forth. So they'll usually try to get the situation under control. They'll lock us two up, and they got what they call SIS. It's like investigation. It's like the FBI inside. So they try to figure out what the problem is, and somebody's always got the keys to the car. At a yard, you'll have a spokesman for like the white people, the black Mexicans, and they'll try to figure out what's going on with them and if it can be, reconciled, or you need to be shipped to another prison.
How do you avoid, or is it possible to always avoid that situation while you're in prison? Like, how do you avoid getting stabbed? Right?
I mean, the best thing to do, way to carry yourself is just, if you tell somebody you're going to do something, do it.
Yeah.
Don't ever try to steal from anybody in prison. If you owe them money, pay, of course. But I mean, I ran into situations like, there's certain, you got disrespectful people in there. Like somebody goes to cut me in a laundry line one time, and we end up in a fight about it. Or you have situations where me and my cellie, we're all drinking because, of course, there's moonshine in there. That's a whole nother story. But we were over all in a cell one night, and my cellie knocks this guy out. So, of course, nobody wants anybody to go to the hole in there. So I grabbed the guy, put him up in his bed, and pulled the cover over him. Not thinking much about it, like they can resolve it in the morning. And so the next morning, in the feds, every institution has manual keys. They're not buttons. They don't push buttons. They come lock them. One officer does every morning. So I heard the doors unlocking, but I really wasn't thinking nothing. I'm kind of asleep. And as soon as our door got unlocked, it was maybe 30 seconds later, somebody come through it. And it was the guy my cellie had knocked out. So I don't know for sure who he was going to attack, but he had a lock and a belt on, together.
Yeah.
And when he went to hit, I don't know who it was because my back was kind of turned to the door, but it hit the top bunk. It didn't hit either one of us. So immediately, like, I fly up, and he tries to shoot and hit out the door, So I snatch him up, pull him back in the cell, and by that time, my cellie's up too. So we just start working him over.
Yeah.
And, it really was an eye-opener, the whole situation, because, like, in 40 seconds, that's what the camera footage was from the time, because the officer heard stuff going on. It was 40 seconds, and we about killed the guy, and it was all no weapons, anything, just stomping him out.
Well, yeah, of course, but he's trying to fucking kill you.
And we didn't end up in a bunch of trouble about it. And what happened was we all got locked up. There was 4 people in the cell. Only 2 of us were involved in it. And they locked us all up. And there's like, the guys in ICU for like a week, and they're like, he might die, and like, fuck. Here we go. I'm already doing 20 years, but
right.
I was legitimately trying to defend myself. And so he ended up coming around, making it. And while they're doing their investigation, they pull the videotapes on it, and they see that when he comes across the tier, he's got a lock and a belt. So they end up letting us out and shipping him. But it was a real big eye-opener because I was like, man, I got to be careful what situations I get myself in. That could be me, or I could have killed somebody, and now I've got 10 or 12 more years added on my sentence.
Yeah, you're fucked.
Yeah.
What about, you said, in the yard, the people that are kind of the front men, if you will, for each clique or gang or whatever you want to call it, kind of get together, and they can even decide if something can't be resolved, if that person needs to be shipped to another prison. How do they dictate that so it actually happens?
Well, how it usually happens in an institution, like let's just say, for example, me and Mark get in a fight.
Right.
Okay, we're 2 different races. So automatically they're going to lock us up and split us up. Then SIS is going to go to you. You got the keys to the car. All right, and he's going to say, look, what happened? Some people are going to say, I don't know. Some people are going to say, hey, you never tell the story of what happened. They're good to come out. You can let them both out. There's not going to be no more problems. Or like, hey, it's better off if you get them both out of there, because you compromise the whole institution. If me and Mark get out.
So they'll take the advice of the people with the keys to the car.
They have to, because we run the prison.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How interesting. You run the prison. Yeah, you guys run the prison.
They have control, but I mean, what goes on inside that prison is up to them.
I truly think if you had a true revolt in a prison, it could just.
I mean, certain levels it could. Like Beaumont, Texas, when they sent me there, it's a level 5. And like, I don't think you could get out of that. Like, they got helicopter guide wires where they can't get down with a helicopter. You got 9 live gun towers. Like, when I was there, I seen a guy. They were in a fist fight, no weapons. And the gun tower, they sounded the alarm. They sound alarm. Everybody get on the ground, and they'll fire like one warning shot in the air. And they fired that warning shot, and they didn't stop fighting it, and they shot the guy.
No shit.
Shot him.
No
Yeah.
shit.
So in Colorado, they had a riot over there, and like the gun tower, they shot 2 people and killed them. Sometimes that's what it takes to get a situation under control.
I mean, if that's what it takes, yeah, that's what it takes, right?
Yeah.
And I think also I think in some instances too, the prisons do have to reestablish that authority after a certain amount of time, but disagree with the whole system in general because, listen, I don't think you should be rewarding these people. Like, what I think you did was fucking stupid.
Right.
But I don't think you should, be given like some reward or treated like some baby or some shit like that. I think that you should be rehabilitated and made to be useful to other people in society, which I think you've done a great job, obviously, with what you've done, reinserting yourself into society and taking life and making it happen for yourself, not waiting for it to come to you.
Yeah, and all that stems from just being prepared, not necessarily prepared on one task, but just having the mentality to know that, hey, I don't want to come back here, so whatever I have to do to avoid this, that's what I'm going to do at all costs.
Yeah.
Today's podcast is brought to you by one of the absolute best real estate agents in the Cleveland market, Tom Sugar with Howard Hanna Real Estate. Tom's here to help you understand the home buying and selling process. He's here to ensure that you're also always going to get the best price, whether you're buying a home or whether you're selling a home, and his customer service skills are top notch. Give Tom a call at 216-406-2841. That's 216-406-2841. You can call or text him or visit his website, shugsells.com, SHUGSELLS.com. Visit Tom Sugar, everybody. He is the best.
You're in Beaumont. Where did you go after there? And how long did you spend in Beaumont?
Beaumont, I was there from 2009 to 2013
And where was your first stint done?
in Memphis, Tennessee.
Okay, in Memphis. So after you get out of Beaumont, where do you head?
Okay, so I actually went back to Memphis. It was like 4 years later. Security level come back down from that incident. Like, they reclassify you every 6 months. So it took like 4 years to kind of get that off my jacket. Went back to medium security, back to the prison. That's like my home prison because it was the first one. I was there the longest. Ended up doing approximately about 10 years on that yard.
Wow.
10 years.
10 years locked up.
10 years.
That's crazy, dude. That's crazy. And I think what's so notable about it is, even when I've met you and I've gotten the opportunity to know you over the last couple of days, you don't come off. You never meet you and be like, like he spent 16 years almost in jail. You'd be like, here's this like sweet, innocent little Southern boy, but he's fucking not. When you get to a prison, do you have you made a lot of friends throughout your years in prison? You said you maybe wanted to shout out a couple of them, so I want to give you an opportunity to make sure you were able to do that.
At the end, but once you've been in the system for like several years, once you get that decade ring, it's like kind of like the Super Bowl ring.
Really?
Yeah. And that's not.
Definitely comparable. Definitely comparable. I totally see that.
No, but once you've been down a while.
I thought I saw you on ESPN one time.
Yeah, they did call me the Great White Hope.
Oh wow.
Jumper, baby.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Right?
That's fucking hilarious, actually.
I'm the Great White Hope.
The Hope. Oh yeah.
That's you, not me. All right.
Yeah, dang, dude. I know. Jesus.
I'm just messing with.
Dang. Cut that out.
No, once you've been in the institution or the system in general for a while, people come to this institution, get transferred. You get transferred, you end up meeting back up with them. And, your character and your reputation, they're going to know it pretty much before you get there. Like, they know you're not a rat. They know you're...
All right, yeah, I was going to ask about that. So they know if you're a piece of shit coming in there or not.
Okay, so when you first get in the system, you have what they call a PSI, which is your pre-sentence report. So what draws red flags on people? When they don't have a PSI, something's wrong. When they say, I can't get my PSI, or I tried to get it mailed in, that means there's something wrong in it. Or it can be like this. They may have a PSI mailed in, and it'll be like page 26, 27, 35. You're like, hold up, where's the other pages?
Mm-hmm.
And in that instance, like in a lower security facility, you'll just kind of shun and stay away from the person. You don't deal with them. In a higher security facility, you cannot walk the yard without the paperwork. The end. You got 30 days to get your paperwork there. You're going to get smashed off the yard.
Really?
Yeah.
That's got to be. Is it there's a prevention of the paperwork, or is it majority of the time people just don't want other people to know why they're there?
No, they've done something. Like, why would you want somebody to not know, that you're clean?
Absolutely,
That you're not a child molester. So if there's problems with the paperwork, there's problems with the people.
How's that go around the yard, the child molester stuff? I've watched some videos on YouTube in the past, but like, what's your experience with that?
Like in a level 4 and 5, you're just going to get rid of them. You go up, smash them out, stomp them out, and they'll get rid of them. That's just kind of the environment.
I think they should.
It's not a choice, but like in a level 4 or 5, it kind of works like this. Beaumont was so like not segregated racially, but it was segregated from like Unit 1, Unit 2, Unit 3. They had 3 yards. They were all separated. They had corridors, so if stuff popped off, they could lock gates and kind of try to control it where it's not 500 people into it. Maybe it's only 80 or 100.
Damn, though. That's still a lot.
So like how it was built, the prison's kind of built like an octagon, 3 yards. So they're kind of split up like this. And there's a corridor all the way around it. Like when you want to walk to like laundry, commissary, medical, there's like corridors you're locked in. And that's like the most dangerous part. Like when things pop off, usually how it would be in Beaumont, they'll like start a fight. It's a fake, it's a facade. They'll start a fight over in Unit 1, and then all the correctional officers will run there. And then it'll get, they'll handle their business where it really needs to happen. So it kind of deflects them, gives them more time before you get what they call the goon squad, because they'll come out there with shields, like beanbag guns.
Yeah.
Yes, it's a nightmare.
The goon squad, that's got to be a little bit of a scary situation, right? When you
I-
first see them come out, unless they're not coming for you, I guess it's probably not scary, right?
Well, what's bad about them? Like, they're not necessarily scary, but like if you're in a prison, right, the first thing they want you to do is like lay down on the ground, and they're like shooting beanbag guns, and like if you don't get down, they'll just fire on you. But then at the same time, you got, if it's black against white or white against Mexican, black against Mexican, who the fuck wants to lay down on the ground when you got somebody trying to stab you?
Of course.
So you just got to take it with a grain of salt.
So you have a lot of probably crazy prison stories and stuff. You've been to different prisons. You've been through the feds. You've been put through the ringer there, and I'm sure from a mental standpoint, towards the end of that sentence, you have to be broken down but still excited maybe to get back out there. Like, what were you feeling when you're coming up on that release date?
I don't know. It's just, I guess it's probably different for everybody, but for me, it was like, I've got this time. I've wasted a bunch of life. I want to get back out and just get reestablished with my family and start a business. That was my main goals. So moving forward, when I did get out, after your actual institutional lockup, you'll go through a halfway house, which is 180 days.
Mm-hmm.
For me, it was a nightmare. It was Warren County Jail, so it was just like being in the county jail. And once you get off that, you're on supervised release. It's a term of confinement. They say post-incarceration. It's just like essentially probation. So for how it happened with my experience, I go in, meet her. She had the same last name as me as well. It's kind of coincidental. But I go in there and she says, well, I see you have drug convictions, so you're going to sign up for drug counseling. And I'm like, drug counseling? What do you mean drug counseling? I've been locked up for 15 years, 8 months. I've never had a dirty urine analysis. Like, I'm not taking no drug counseling.
All right. You can tell you're not a drug person by the fact that you just called it a urine analysis.
Yeah, you like that? UA?
What the fuck, dude?
But anyway, long story short.
What are you, a fucking cop?
When I go... When I go in her office, and I told her that, and she was kind of like thrown back by me telling her I'm not going to drug counseling. And she's like, well, you have to go. That can be, a reason to terminate your supervised release and send you back to prison. And I said, look, I just want to be real clear here. I'm not trying to cause any problems whatsoever. If I give you a reason where I need to go to drug counseling, I'll do so. But you have a job to do here, and I'm not going to drug counseling. Mm-hmm. And she just sat there for a moment, and she didn't say a whole lot, and she just kind of ended our meeting. So I was like, I don't really know how that went. And I just immediately started, going to work, taking care of things. I'd get up 4 o'clock in the morning every day. I'd work till dark, and I did that for like 3 years. And it kind of compromised all my relationships and family, and just everything, because I'm never there. And like people don't see the fruits of your labor initially. They're like, why does he work that much? And then, you know, looking forward 6 years post prison, you know, I got like way more than anybody else has got. I got whatever toy I want. I've got a fleet of trucks. But, you know, I give people, it's kind of a remedial example. But when you clean a house, you know, you're there cleaning it and cleaning it. It don't seem like you ever get nowhere till you get to the very end. You're like, oh, it looks great. And that's kind of how it is when you're doing things in life. You're like, man, this is a bitch. Why am I working this much? I'm not really seeing anything because I'm spending all my money, putting it back in the company. And then all at once, like year 4, 5, 6, it just like, Mark got to see it personally. You know, I'm making trips down there, buying equipment. You know, now I got the money to buy 3 pieces, and now I can sell 2 and get mine free. Now I have no overhead in the business.
You love being a hillbilly. I think it's great.
You like that?
Yeah.
You like my voice, but...
Yeah. I mean, really, my next question for you, man, is like you come out of prison, you said that you know a little bit about, you know, doing some stuff with trees. And, I mean, for everybody that really doesn't know, the greatest part about Jay's story is his success, being able to turn a negative into a positive, and then, you know, be able to provide jobs for other people, do the right thing, create opportunities for others. And I think that is like the biggest part of this podcast I do want to focus on is the good you've decided to do with your life. Because like even for me, I've done some shitty things in my life and I try to do good here, right? And it's nothing to the extent of I didn't spend 16 years in, you know, the feds for making a fucked up mistake. But if you just would kind of dive into that a little bit of how that started, and then, you know, how you got to that point for maybe somebody out there that could possibly be in the same situation that you were once in.
All right, so initially, I don't think I've really told you too much about this. So I that's all I did for like 16 years is work out. That was just like my ever-living moment. It kept me really sane. And get up, I'd run 3 miles. You know, after I got in good shape, like my goal was always to keep it under 18 and a half minutes. So I had a business partner that I dealt with as far as funding some stuff. And we didn't talk for about 10 years. They tried to get me to cooperate on him. I didn't do it. You know, we had a statute of limitations for about 10 years. So after 10 years, he contacted my sister, and he's like, hey, I want to know where your brother's at. And my sister gave him all my information, and he contacted me. And he's like, hey, where you at? I want to come visit you. You know, I know you probably think I don't appreciate you not telling, but, you know, the reason that I'm with my family is because you didn't roll over on me.
Right.
So, and we grew up too. He's another childhood friend, and he's like, you know, I got to raise my kids. This is a visit, and he's like, I just want you to know the reason I was able to raise my kids is because you were solid, man. You didn't tell on me. You didn't implicate me in this stuff and draw me into this conspiracy. And I just told him, I was like, look, you know, that was my job to do that. I entered into this agreement to, you know, if anything happened, I wasn't going to collapse on somebody and cause that other pain to somebody else. And he was doing pretty good financially, and he said, look, I don't want you to just come work for me. And he owns a tree company too. He said, I don't want you to just come work for me. I want you to tell me what you want to do. He said, I'm where I'm at in life because I didn't have to go to prison like you. You took the lick for both of us. And so at the time, like I had been studying Tough Mudder, Spartan Race, all these obstacle course races.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if anybody knows, but these things are generating $100 million an event on big events.
Wow.
So I was like, wow, maybe this is the lick. So I'll actually show you some videos. Maybe we'll post one on here. But
You were going to sell meth to everybody at the events?
No, absolutely not.
Just kidding.
That was the old Jay. I'm John now. So he said, well, what do you want to do? So I showed him I had drawn up a little bit of a business plan, and I was like, look at these events, man. These things are killing it, like especially the Tough Mudder and Spartan Race. They were just like outrageous money. So I said, look, he grew up on a lime quarry. It was like a homestead that he had 15 sisters and brothers. And I was like, man, if we got a lime quarry, I don't know if y'all are familiar with what a lime quarry is, but it's where they mine limestone. I don't see none of it out here, but they mine limestone, and eventually they hit vessels of water underground. They just flood them with this just blue, beautiful water.
Okay.
And it's like a stone pool, you know? So these things some of them are 100, 200 foot deep, aqua blue water. And so we started drawing up these. Actually, I told him, hey, I need you to send me $2,500 to get a cell phone so we can get this going.
Right. A
So,
cell phone?
Yeah, I had a cell phone in
What
prison.
kind of fucking cell phone were you buying for $2,500?
Well, they're actually like $100. I figured out once I got out. So they were really, but it's the process.
Oh, yeah. Okay, you're in
Cut-
prison at this point.
Yeah,
all
we're not
right.
supposed to have cell phones. Funny story. I got so many funny stories about being on the phone because you had to smuggle this thing around, and you're always walking by correctional officers and things like that. And, you make a pouch on your pants, because they don't want to grab your junk for real. They'll pat you down, but they ain't trying to rub all up on you, right?
Yeah.
So you make a little pouch right here to put your phone in, and you'll go to like the phone stall, and you'll be texting or talking, whatever. Have somebody watch out for you. So we get this going, and so he takes the business plan in front of the banker, and they loan him the money. So the property was like $585,000, and then what he put into it was about another $250. So we get it going. Like, I'm not out yet at this point, but I'll show you the pictures. We actually photoshopped them, me in prison and him with our logo.
Oh, no shit.
All this was done from prison. And so we get it going. It's opened up. It's in a small county in Kentucky, like a real small town, but it's only like 60 miles from Fort Campbell Army Base. So you have all the soldiers there. That's going to be our really potential clientele. So my friend, can't say nothing bad about the whole ordeal, but a few things got shortcut of what it should have been, and he likes to party kind of like Roger over here. We're in a small town, and they have the Wreck Fest. You know who Ryan Upchurch is? Do you know who he is?
No.
Anyways, he had a big song just come out called Campfire Cologne. So they come down there and like debuted it at the climb. We got floating docks, zip lines across the water where like you zip line, let go off into the water. Well, in the meantime, when they had this Wreck Fest, it's like 2,000 rednecks descend on the place. And just chaos, like some DUIs, other things, and they got the city against them. So that kind of failed that plan. Once they got the actual city against them, it was like it wasn't going to happen.
Right.
Because then they started nitpicking about just everything. So that one kind of failed, and it kind of hurt him financially somewhat. We kind of split ways on our partnership. We don't hate each other or anything, but it's better off if I do business and he does business. And I just worked really hard, put the time in, and every penny that I would make, I would just put it back in the business. I would buy another skid steer, another bucket truck, another dump trailer, another dump truck. And in the meantime, I'm setting up all these accounts with the auctions. So when I go buy equipment, like I would buy 2 bucket trucks, sell one, keep one.
I get it. Okay.
So it helped me kind of catapult my business because I'm not really having to finance a bunch of equipment. And, so the cash flow is coming in off the jobs and just building it. And one thing leads to the next. And then I submerged myself in the storm game. Like it's huge, multi-billion-dollar business. Everything's insurance work, or you're doing work for the DOT and right-of-ways. And there's a lot of money in it.
And that's what you're doing now.
We have crews down there now as we're sitting here.
And your business is Highland Tree Service?
LLC.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like that. I like that a lot. But I think what's most notable about all of this is how you just were able to catapult yourself into that situation. What would you say the biggest challenge was that you ended up facing reintegrating yourself into society from getting out of prison?
As far as business or personal?
Let's ask both.
As far as business, the hardest part getting started was just starting with zero capital.
Right.
Because when you don't have no capital, you can't buy the real nice equipment. Like now we have nice equipment, makes everybody's job easy and efficient. But when you start out, you're starting out with substandard equipment, so you're having problems. Which even with new equipment, you have problems all the time.
Set this.
That was the biggest obstacle in business, just starting from zero. But once the momentum gets going and you take the money and you invest it right, it just becomes easier and easier and easier. But like I don't feel that successful. I've done okay, but I'm not to where I want to be.
I get it.
We're trying to climb that mountain.
Right, I understand. Yeah, I think that's why. Yeah, I love your attitude. I love your can-do attitude over the last couple days. Because like, even though you like bust my balls about smoking and shit, I know it's because you want me to be better. So I appreciate that kind of stuff out of you. I really do. You're just that kind of person that, you know what I mean? You really do want to see people around you succeed, which I think is really cool. I meant to ask you this before, but like, what happens like when someone crosses John Sanders?
Well, I mean, in prison, it's not near as much repercussions. It's a trip to SEG for 30, 60, 100 days, whatever. But like in there, you can't let people cross over on you. It's not an option. Like when I was in Memphis, I'm in a predominantly all black prison, so I ran poker tables and tickets, all the gambling rackets, because I had the money behind it to support it. But that was a passion of mine, anyways. I'm an avid poker player. I love playing poker. So like there was no better pastime for me than working out. In the morning I'd play handball in the afternoon, play poker all night, and repeat every day. And I kind of got a kick out of it too, because like on a prison poker game, the rake, which the rake means how much you cut out of each pot, it's it's at 10% straight across the board. So like in a casino, you're raking 5%, and they'll cap it at $5, whether it's a $50,000 or $1 million pot. It doesn't matter. In prison, you're raking 10%. So if it's a $500 pot, you're cutting 50. So if you do the mathematics behind it, in 8 hours, if you sit down, you'll have half of the buy-in. So if there's $3,000 worth of buy-in on your table, you'll cut $1,500 of the money if you're running 35 hands an hour.
So then leaves the question: what happens with you so you're a businessman. No one's really gonna fuck with you in prison, but if they do and you go fuck them up, whatever, no big deal. Life goes on.
You can't get your hands dirty. If you
Outside of prison, would you say you've been able to control your anger pretty well, or has that been like a trouble thing? Because like I feel like once you get integrated into those, you have to respect me. You're gonna respect me. This is the way it is. And then you get outside those walls, and it's not necessarily
it's
like
hard
that.
To shake, though.
Yeah, that's why I was curious about that.
Yeah, it's hard to adjust to that, and it's also hard to adjust to like sensitizing yourself to emotion. I think I shared this with you and Mark, but like I have a prison photo album. I just flip through and look through as I've been out, just kind of as a reminder, like, hey, you need to make sure you make conscious decisions. But you look at those pictures, and on week one of prison, probably the first prison photo I ever took, I'm like, when my family comes to see me, this will be the first contact visit I've had in 3 years, and like I'm real close and hugging them. And as the years go by, just by no physical contact with people, I almost look like a prop in the picture away from them.
It's very odd for you at that point.
Yeah, and then like I didn't like things when I first got out, like holding hands. Like I don't want my hands held.
Yeah,
like, it's nothing against you, but it's just I feel uncomfortable, and so I try to get better at those things, and just emotional things. Like some people say, well, you don't have emotion, and it's just you go so many years, you miss every Christmas, every Thanksgiving, every holiday. Those things, you just become a little more numb and a little more numb.
Of course.
So, I ask myself that question, like, does it take 16 years to get back to where you were?
Right.
Who knows?
Or maybe you never will.
It may not be.
And I don't mean that in like a bad way, right? But I think like the person that you are and the person that you built yourself to be, and maybe that'll slowly but surely come back. But I guess, do you want it to come back?
I mean, I'm pretty happy who I am. I think it's hard on other people, when they deal with you, as far as family, relationships, as far as an intimate relationship, whether it be platonic or romantic. It's a different vibe, because when you went through certain things in life, it just makes scars on you. It don't make you ugly, but it makes a difference.
I agree. I think that there's a lot of people that have been through a lot of things. 16 years in prison, obviously significant. There's going to be mental, we could call them repercussions, I suppose. Yeah. I don't know if that's maybe the best word, but I think even for other people that have become numb because of just other life experiences, maybe they weren't in prison. I know for me, a lot of things have been numb as well. So like, I appreciate you sharing that with us though, because I definitely think a lot of people do struggle with it. Right. What else do you really want to touch on? Like, what do you want everybody to know about John Sanders? What is John Sanders' message to this world, to these people that maybe need a little bit of help, to somebody that needs some guidance? What do you want everybody? What do you want them to know?
The biggest thing in life, I think, that really sets people back. Okay, a person actually told me this in prison. They said, "You never fail because you set the bar too high in life and don't reach it. You fail because you set it too low and you make it. So that's one thing. Like, you know, if you want to do something, you got to dream big, and it, you know, a thought is just a thought, and then you need actions, and then you need goals. You know, those things just are one step after the next to get somewhere. Like everybody, you know, especially where I'm from, they're like, how did he do what he did? Like anybody can do that. Like anybody can realistically do that. If you can believe, if you honestly can believe it, and you can vision it in your mind, it can happen.
Right.
You just have to have passion, determination. You have to be reliable. That's the biggest fail point, I think, in people today. They're just not reliable.
Right.
Consistency wins every single race in the world. If you're consistent with something each and every day, you just do it day in, day out, day in, day out, you'll get to where you want to be. A good friend of mine, he's going to write a book called "I Become a Businessman from Being a Drug Dealer."
Okay.
This is a good point to hit on, okay? So the number one thing, this is a noted thing. You can read a million entrepreneur books, and it's going to pretty much outline the same thing. The biggest thing that stunts people from success is the fear of failure. Like, and you'll see it. Like, me and my sister were raised in the same home with same parents, same environment. And she, like her, if she has a chance to make 500,000 or 50 safely, she's going to take the 50. I'm shooting for the 500.
Right.
Because I've started everything in life with zero. Like, if I started from zero and did it, I can.
You're not afraid of it. Yeah.
No, it's
No,
fun.
you're not afraid of
It's
it.
fun and challenging.
Yeah.
And
Let's not get ahead of ourselves, dude. I don't know about fun, but I started at zero not that long ago, but yeah, that's funny.
That's the biggest thing.
Fucking
I think
fun.
that's why people. I'm gonna touch on what Mark said. I think the biggest point of why some people, like my friends that are a lot of my employees, I take them out to like Sarasota, Florida, Fort Myers, West Palm Beach, to all my homeboys' house. And they're like, God damn, they got a fucking mansion. You was locked up with him? I was like, yeah, he just got out 5 or 6 years ago. And they're like, how the fuck does he do it? But we had business principles. When we're doing things illegal, you do good business.
Right.
And the thing when you do things illegal,
What a fucking genius idea, right? Do good business when it's illegal.
Yeah, even legal business though. When you practice good principles, and you do good work, the work will just come to you, you know. And but the biggest thing just stops the average person from going out and doing this is that fear of failure. Like, you just got to say, fuck it, I'm gonna try it. When I started this business, I didn't touch on this point. I had been helping another one of my friends just to get a little money. I had $1,087, okay? So I went to the Kubota dealership. I sealed a deal on a truck. I sealed a deal on a skid steer, and I told him, look, just give me 30 days. I'll come back and I'll take care of whatever the bill is. And he said, you know what? This guy's got millions of dollars. He said, I trust you. I think you're gonna do well. And like today, I don't care if I lived in Cuba, I would go to him to buy a skid steer.
Yeah.
Because he took that chance on me.
Yeah,
you know?
he hooked you up.
And that's you have to do it. But there's an innate character with criminals. Like, apparently we're not really scared to take a risk. Because every day you do something illegal, you're risking your freedom, sacrificing your loved ones, being around them. You know, you're taking the ultimate risk. So when you get out here and you start playing with business, it's like, okay, I lost.
Yeah, this isn't even playing ball at that point.
I lost 50 grand. We'll take that other shot and make 100 here.
Yeah.
You know, you just can't take too many of them at once.
I understand. I really appreciate you sharing that with everybody and opening up. I really like that. I always finish my podcast with this question, and on a scale of 1 to 10, how happy would you consider yourself to be? And if it's not a 10, what do you think you'd do to get yourself to a 10 or closer to a 10?
I would say probably like a 6.7.
Okay.
All right. It's a number I like. So, but I'm gonna say a 6.7 right now.
Yeah.
And to get to where I want to be, I can't really divulge into that because you touched on the subject a little bit. But I don't drink. I'm drug-free Jay. All right. But I think we got something in the works that'll really get me up there, and I'll feel like I'm successful.
I like that. Do you feel successful now, or do you feel like you just have a lot more room to improve?
Well, everyone around me tells me like you're never satisfied. Nothing's enough. Like not just on money terms, but like I like a nicer truck, a nicer car, a bigger boat. But I don't see that as like not being happy, because like I had a Baja boat. I wanted to buy a bigger one. Trucks, cars. But the thing about that is I like to see progression.
Yeah.
Like I feel like I'm stagnant.
You
if
kind
I'm
of
not-
love the journey in a way.
Yeah, I mean, if you're not progressing, what are you?
Yeah, I know.
You're
I agree.
regressing.
Yeah, you're degressing. I agree.
Okay, because everything, whether it's money or anything else, it inflates. You're losing if you're not gaining.
Yep.
So that has to be your momentum to get. I mean, who doesn't want something bigger and better and nicer, or a bigger piece of property? These are things you should want.
Yeah. Yeah, you gotta. I've found it imperative in my life to have a goal, and to have multiple goals. Like even for myself, to consistently stay busy.
And that's a good thing to touch on. Like goals are great.
Yeah.
But I think some people give a big blanket goal, and I tell this it's a country analogy. But if you have or I told you this the other day, if you have a barn out here,
Yeah.
I say, Roger, shoot the barn. And you're like, Jay, I did great. I hit the barn. I'm a good shot. But we're talking about the barn's 100 by 100, Roger.
Right.
You're not really a fucking good shot.
Yeah.
But if you put a target on there, and these are like goals in life,
Yeah.
you put a target on there and you shoot and you miss by 5 foot, what do?
I don't know. Keep fucking trying.
No, you have to make adjustments.
Well, yeah, of course.
You adjust to it and get closer. And in dealing with goals are just like that. Like if you can't really just micro in on exactly what you want, but get you a goal this size.
Yeah.
And just start chiseling it away, and look at it. And if you view it every week and you see, okay, I haven't gotten any closer to where I want to be than I was last week, you have to ask yourself, what do I need to do to get closer? So rather it be like a bad habit you have, replace it with a good habit. If this phone's consuming too much of your time, eliminate an app. These things are real. Like I've done that myself. Like get on TikTok. I don't have like an Instagram or nothing. I told you that because
Right.
I get on it and I start scrolling. I'm there for a fucking hour. But you really have to make them goals, and you have to micro them down. Where okay, I'll do a little bit of this, a little bit of that, and before you know it, you're there. You're like somebody the other day. We were down here on the storm in Georgia. And we did some work together on the storm. His name's Charles Rogers. He owns Clean Cut Tree Service. Real good guy. But when he got home, you know what he did? He shot a picture of my lot. And, you really don't realize that it's so big, but it's just trucks, just lined up. And I'm not even home, and those trucks are running.
Yeah.
And then I've got these crews in Georgia running, and they're running while we're having this podcast.
Yeah.
But and it was that was a sense of accomplishment. This is another guy that's been he's been there 20 years. I've been there 6. And I do have the biggest tree service in my city, And
Good for you.
Some people hate on it and some people love it. They're like, I like to
Well,
see
whatever. Who gives a shit?
it. Who gives a fuck?
Yeah.
Honestly, they're not paying the bills.
Yeah, who gives a shit? You
Yeah.
shouldn't care.
Yeah.
You should be proud of yourself.
How you like the peanut gallery tonight?
They're fucking brutal. They're
Now, I
fucking
have
brutal.
fun having the podcast, but I guess the biggest thing is just never give up on a dream. Like, I'm sitting in LA for a reason. We'll be easy on the reason it is. But, like, who would have thought that getting out of prison 6 years ago, like, it started as an idea, and it's manifested in being here, creating a reality, and hopefully it'll just be mind-blowing. That's what I'm shooting for.
Yeah, I mean, now you're sitting in the Hollywood Hills.
Yeah.
Welcome to the show, baby.
Everybody likes mind-blowing.
Yeah, it's crazy, isn't it?
Yeah.
I get it. You told me a year ago I'd be doing this. I'd tell you you're fucking crazy.
Yeah, and
So
it just
I get it.
happens.
Yeah.
you
Well,
know?
thank you for coming on. Thank you for being here, and we will do a part 2 with a lot more information. Yeah, thanks for listening. See you next time.
All right, have a good day.